This server has gotten completely out of control. There's wheat problems, beet problems. People can't seem to get enough crushed limestone. There's dozens of people on all the time, working hard. The challenges just keep mounting. It's absolutely fantastic. So let me break all that down for you and talk about some of the challenges we're having right now in Eco. Most games have challenges, whether you're beating a boss, making your way through a maze of traps and spikes, trying to master the complexities of landing a plane, or just trying to take over the world. But what does Eco have during gameplay, beyond the meteor? Well, the challenges are quite real, but they don't always happen on their own. Some are created by the individual players, and some are presented by the government. Let me start with a simple challenge this season is facing now: wheat. You've seen in my prior episodes how the currency in this season's playthrough is based on agriculture, and the Mint buys thousands of seeds each day across all the people playing on the server. This obviously consumes vast quantities of seeds that normally wouldn't happen, and of course, the crops are used up to make those seeds. At first, the farmers and gatherers were busy, but able to keep up with the demand. But a couple laws came into play that don't normally exist on other servers. First, farming can really only happen on owned land, which limits the ability for any farming to occur in unlimited, wide open spaces. And a second one is a tax on making mortar from sand, which routes most of the mortar activity to the use of wheat to make that mortar. Between the consumption of crops and subsequent purchases of seeds by the Mint, the limiting factor on land that can be farmed, and the mortar tax, there was suddenly a huge pressure on the agricultural industry. Then it happened. The great wheat shortage of Season 6. I'm over-dramatizing just a little bit, but there were many proclaiming that the world was over. The economy was in dire straits, and that if the government didn't act quickly, everything was going to collapse. Seeds of any type had become scarce due to all the selling at the Mint, and wheat was practically non-existent, with no seeds or raw crops available on the open market. Even the wild-growing wheat in the world had almost been picked down to a point of close extinction. But this was exactly part of the plan by the government. Most servers struggle and die due to an oversupply. People ending up with lots of goods in their stockpiles and no buyers for their goods because no one needs anything.
It's all here. Everything in the world you've ever cared about is all right here.
That is the worst possible condition. What we were experiencing was the exact opposite. A huge demand, with lots of product being needed, and only struggling for now due to a limited supply. This was perfect, and was the challenge created by the government to create more opportunities. The agricultural rent program I talked about in a prior video was launched to allow every citizen the ability to lease their land for planting and create a side business in farming. The professions of gathering and farming were now even more in demand. The rarity of crop-related products were keeping prices up rather than driving prices down due to overabundance. Okay, so I've got to stop this edit and just jump in right here, because right in the middle, I am reading some stuff on Discord from what's happening here. And for days now, this community has done nothing but talk about sausages. I mean, it goes on and on, these calculations of sausages and oil and tallow. And I mean, it's just unbelievable. One raw sausage that is one tallow, then another tallow to turn the same sausage into charred sausage. I mean, it just goes on and on. If anyone who didn't play Eco went in and read this Discord chat of the days of ongoing conversation about sausages, they'd be like, what the heck are these people talking about? All right, back to the video. And suddenly there was something to work for in the game. A challenge. I said there was an immediate outcry for the government to fix the situation, but that would have been the worst thing to do. The framework had been set, the challenge created, and all that was left is to have some patience and let it play out. The principle the government set in motion was based on the fundamentals of supply and demand. If you create a demand, then the economy will naturally grow and evolve in a way to fill that void. Does it create a challenge? Absolutely. But that's also something that makes the game fun. When there's no objectives, no challenges, a game can lose its flavor and get, well, dull. You've heard me say that one of the primary functions of an eco-government is to create opportunities. This can be through build programs like for roads and other direct opportunities, or by introducing these more organic challenges that may be initially viewed as problems, but in the long run, open opportunities. I will say that it's pretty exciting to be 1 month into the server and have a super active player base, all busy and collaborating to figure out how to get more crops into circulation, and at the same time, scrambling over trying to get a hold of basic materials like crushed rocks. It's just really good to have all these demand-driven challenges. But if your server isn't really presenting these kinds of economic puzzles to resolve, you can create your own challenges to bring a little spice into the game. I've been showing in the background of my videos, including this one, advancement on what I called the Atlantean project. This was to create a fully functioning workshop, store, house, and even some public utilities, all underwater. Now you might be saying that this doesn't sound all that unusual, as many people have built underground habitats, and some of tremendous size. And that's quite true, but building underwater is a very different activity than just building underground, and brings with it some very unique challenges. A primary challenge is the water itself when trying to place items. You're unable to set down stockpiles or tables of anything like that in the water. I couldn't even place a door when water was present. So you have to advance into the water, pushing it back or displacing it with some sort of block item. You can use dirt or building blocks like mortared stone and essentially have to fill the entire interior space with these blocks. Then you have to remove all the blocks to actually claim your open space under the water. This means you have to place many times the number of blocks you would for a normal building, and then deconstruct that same number. It's much more difficult, time-consuming, burns a lot of calories, and uses up a lot more of your construction hammer. To make it more difficult, you have to do a lot of this construction in the buoyancy of water, and try to keep your character from floating to the surface. It's very challenging. And the challenge doesn't end with the water and having to completely enclose your area of operation. The ocean and ocean floor has some of the most difficult geology to work in. Basalt is everywhere and in great thicknesses. Basalt is the hardest rock to mine in Eco. It takes 6 swings with a stone pickaxe, 3 with an iron pickaxe, 2 with steel, and it's not until you get a modern pickaxe that you can bust this rock up with a single swing. A little later in the game, you can get a skid steer or excavator which will chew through basalt like a hungry young Jedi. But you might not be able to use one of those machines in all the situations you could in a less aquatic environment. Basalt is also one of the least usable rocks in the game, only really being needed in any significant quantities for ashlar stone. It does have a very cool blackish with slight blue tinge to it, so a lot of people really do like it for that. But overall, there just isn't a huge market for this basalt, so I've wound up turning most of it into basic mortared stone, and using that for a big portion of my Atlantean project. All that just adds to this season's challenge I made for myself, and I'm enjoying it. It always feels good when you make a nice build, but even when making an area to set a regular size stockpile feels like an accomplishment, it makes every little step seem like a milestone. And you can have a chance to make challenges for yourself and play on dad speed with a free copy of Eco being offered in this video. This is the last week of a 4-week giveaway I'm running, so you can watch each of the 4 videos produced for this giveaway and provide a comment on each one for multiple chances to win. Don't worry though, more giveaways are planned for the near future, because this season of Eco is shaping up to be something really different. Join the fun at the IP address in the description, like and subscribe, and I'll be talking to you later.